So people are trickling in. First of all, I have been looking forward to this for months. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. This is like right up my alley of interest. So I'm glad everybody's here. Uh, Becca's going to play us some wonderful music so we can sort of start to understand what plant band actually produces, and then she'll launch into her talk, and then we'll probably wait for Q&A until that's done. And I'll just remind everybody, if you can please keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking, and also wave in the window or put up the hand raising icon when we have Q&A. That makes things go a little smoother. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Becca.
Hey everybody. Usually I'm on the other side of the screen watching all of you with your wonderful presentation. So I'm very excited to be here. So first of all, I just want to thank CASY for having the space and thank Don and Roger for all the work that they do to make sure we have this space um, to explore and to learn and to meet up together. I think it's a very important thing that we're doing here. Um, First off, I'm going to go ahead and start by playing a couple minutes of plant music. This is music that I created with a biofeedback from my houseplants. So I'm going to go ahead and play that up front so you have some frame of reference as I talk about plant band, and also to allow for other people to trickle in. I know we had some safety concern, or we had to change the link and do a few things, so people might trickle in a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and start with 2 minutes of plant band music or so. If you have headphones, wonderful. If not, wonderful. And I hope y'all enjoy. Thank you.
Are you on mute, Becca?
I am.
Okay.
All right.
No
Sorry,
worries.
guys.
No
And so I am going to go back to my slides here. I was having a little technical challenge with turning the music off because all right, is everybody seeing the present screen now? All right, that should work. All right, well, thank y'all for listening. Did everybody hear the music okay? Good. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Please type in the chat like one word to describe just how you felt listening. If you pay, if you were here to listen, and then at the end, I want to kind of come around and circle back around to that. But my name's Becca Cook, and I'm an ADHD artist and self-taught artist, experimenter, writer, poet, animal communicator. So I do a lot of things that kind of are in the field of interests, of all of my special interests. Houseplants, of course, being one of them. But before I begin, I want to acknowledge my position as a white person engaging in work that explores nature, sound, and my personal multisensory experience. My ability to share this project in this space is shaped in part by structures of privilege that have historically lifted some voices while limiting others. I recognize that access, safety, and visibility are not distributed equally, and I hold gratitude and responsibility in being here today. My goal is to use opportunities like this to support inclusive, diverse, and liberated spaces. I would also like to state that I'm not speaking for all autistic people. Um, these are about my observations and my sensory experiences that are coming from my personal lived experience. Some people may relate, and that's awesome, but some people may not, and that's okay too. Um, the observations I speak about are just coming from my own autistic lens. I'm not an academic, but I am an autistic person who's interested in the culture and interested in the neurodiversity movement. So, and I know that artistic expression is part of that movement. And I really think that this experiment highlights some of those things that we can learn from. So today I'm going to be sharing my experiment that I started in 2020. Out of the pandemic, I know that we were all kind of going through it at that time. What a great creative uh, kickstart for a lot of us, I think, too. So let's go on this plant band adventure together. So here's a picture of plant band on the left. You'll see my orchid Lilu there. She is the drama queen of the group, I will say, if there was one. We have flamingo next to that, Phyllis the philodendron next to that. And in the purple seashell, you will see Trina, the spider plant. And so this is my little setup. This is when I first started Plant Band. It has grown and gotten a little bit bigger. We have a few new members. And then you'll see the guitar pedals in front. I do like to use different effects pedals also. So, so I'm a self-taught artist and an outsider artist. This is not really my field of music, but I'm surrounded by musicians a lot. We have a lot of musicians in the family as well. Um, my creative path has always been DIY and deeply community oriented. And most of my career was spent building and managing third spaces, places where other artists could come and collaborate, perform, and explore. I've dabbled in music through those collaborations, but my strongest pull has always been making things. It's always been building things with my hands. Because for me, making art isn't just about making something, it's actually a form of stimming for me. So I have to make art. So I make probably 4 pieces of art a day on average because it's the way that I communicate as a visual processor as well. Art has been my lifelong language for navigating synesthesia and visual processing experiences. I think in images and sometimes in short movie clips. I don't think in words. And in fact, I have to really translate all of those visual images into words, which can be very exhausting. Synesthesia is also something I experience with sound. So sound to me is color, texture, form, geometric patterns, occasionally tactile sensations, like taps between the shoulder blades or down the arms. These layers of sensory crossover are vivid, beautiful, but often overwhelming. They also deepen my ability to perceive the natural world. The natural world to me is both intuitive and multidimensional. And I make art because it's how I move through the world and it's how I function. Like many of us, everything changed for me in 2020. Um, I had a tragedy in my family. I lost my sister early, unexpectedly and tragically. The pandemic, we all were there. But the pandemic also halted a lot of creative projects I was doing. I was building installations with an artist. Um, I was working in a theater, a puppet theater. All of those things kind of ended. My third space that I was managing for 10 years, it started to fold. It took a little while for it to finally fold, but it just was never the same since the pandemic. So basically, my entire life just went, fell apart in a million ways. And I completely went into burnout, total autistic burnout. And during this time, I was doom scrolling on TikTok and I saw somebody playing plant music with their plants. And I thought, wow, that might be helpful for me because I can't really go outside as much as I used to. And I could bring nature in some creative form to me. So I went ahead and ordered this plant wave device, which was at the time was very new. And I had to wait for a while. There was a waiting list for it. So when I finally got it, I did connect it to my lavender plant, to this plant, to that plant. And I just was so curious on how each plant would respond. So in 2022, a little bit fast forwarding, I sustained injuries in both of my arms due to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder. I know autistic people sometimes do experience this. Um, and so I was not able to paint, to draw, to crochet or do knitting or any of the stimming things that I was used to doing. And so I had to find something creative and fast because I was not going to be okay if I didn't find an outlet. And I remembered my little plant wave device. So I started experimenting and I took it camping with me and I did all kinds of things with it. I had 9 months to a year of recovery time. So I pivoted. I made digital art too, and I became obsessed with making TikTok shorts. I played weekly guitar sessions with my friend Meg, who was teaching me about music, and that really helped as well. And I wrote small pieces of music for my friends who were starting podcasts because that was just all the rage at the time too. I experimented constantly with anything that allowed me to create while my body healed. So when I started the plant band, I thought, this is great. I could start a band and no one will ever be late for rehearsal. There's no interpersonal drama. Perfect bandmates. I didn't really have many boundaries or ideas of perfection or structure when it came to plant band. My practice in art has always been an exploration because I already experienced the natural world so vividly through synesthesia and through my work as an animal communicator. Plant band felt like a natural extension of my world. What began tinkering in 2020 slowly evolved, and by 2023, plant band had become an interactive performance. We recorded several sessions, two small albums, which are available on YouTube, and I'll share those with you later. Plant Band's not a fixed project, but a living experiment shaped by curiosity, play, and sensory experience. So how it works is the biggest question I get. How it works. So I drew you a map. This is my setup. I keep plant bands set up pretty simple because it is interactive and other people have to interact with it. I find that keeping things simple and easy to access is very important. Sometimes I might add a little bit more to this setup for different things or different ways that I'm using PlantBand, but this is the main one. So can plants make music? Yes, but not in the human way. Plants do sing, plants do not sing, but they do respond to their environment. And those fluctuations can be mapped and made into something that our ears can experience. So here's the setup. PlantBand uses a plant wave or plant choir device. These devices use two sensors to send a signal through the plant to measure its conductivity. The conductivity of the plant is largely related to how much water there is between the two sensors. So as the plant is photosynthesizing and moving chloroplasts around, the device is sensing these tiny shifts and graphing them in real time. And if you graph shifts over time, they create a wave. The device analyzes this wave's frequency and matches it to the nearest frequency of the musical note. That note becomes a digital signal sent from the device to an app in PlantBand's very own smartphone, which holds all the sound sets. So we can adjust key. I can pick what kind of instrument we would like PlantBand to play. This is sent through a series of pedals. So these are all effects pedals, actually made for a guitar. But, plants can play them too. So I have two loopers. One is to just record. The other one is fun. You can speed up the sound or play the sound backwards. I have a synth pedal that has 120 settings or more, and you can, put those all together. There's thousands of different sounds that can be made with that pedal. And then I have a choir and mermaid effects pedal for ambient adjustments. And then to the speaker, and then to your ears. Plants respond to all kinds of things. My favorite thing to do with PlantBand is to listen throughout the day while I'm working. I can hear how the plants would pick up and become stronger as the sun would come up, and then they would lull and quiet down as the sun would go down for the day. I also noticed sound changes when I watered plants and when I walked around the room, motion or air. If anyone touched the plants, it would pick up a collaboration of plant and human biofeedback. I wanted to make a slide of some plant experiments that were very inspirational and things that I was looking at when I developed PlantBand. Because once I started PlantBand, I quickly realized there were a global community of sound artists creating with plants. And I got really interested in seeing what other people were doing with their biosound projects. So I discovered plant music enthusiasts doing several projects, discovering some interesting history of artists and musicians collaborating with plants. Here are some early inspirations. We have the plant wave device, of course, that was created by Stephen Thomas. This really brought plant music tech into the mainstream awareness, making way for a lot of music projects. It gave us an easily accessible device that you could buy for not a whole lot of money, and you can do this PlantBand. So Bionic and the Wires is a YouTube channel you can look up. They actually have bionic arms on their plants. And so here we see a mushroom with bionic arms playing a handpan. There's also a Christmas tree playing a Christmas tree with a keyboard, but this is going a little further than PlantBand by actually creating limbs and creating arms for your plants. And so here we have Mylise, who is a sonic artist and immersive ecology designer who promotes ecology through technology and the arts. And she's just a wonderful person to look up and check out. Up in the corner here, we have Plantasia by Mort Garrison. This was actually an album created in 1976, and it was not made by plants, but it was music produced to play for your plants. And so this is an album somebody created just to play for your house plants. And then The Secret Life of Plants is a 1976 documentary. And the soundtrack's by Stevie Wonder, so that's great too. But the documentary explores new age ideas about plant communication, various experiments like putting polygraph tests on plants. Here we see Mrs. Hashimoto conducting experiments with her cactuses. She was attempting to teach her cactuses how to say the alphabet. Sharing Plant Band with others has been one of the most surprising parts of the project. Not everybody just hears sounds. Many people connect with part of the natural world, which leads me to a living duet. So these are some of my audience pictures here, things that we're doing. So Plant Band originally began as a private experimental project. It was really something I created to entertain myself while navigating burnout and injury. And I wasn't really thinking about performing or doing things for an audience. I have crippling social anxiety sometimes. And so performing in front of an audience is like a nightmare to think about for me. I was simply trying to stay creative during a period when so many of my usual outlets were just unavailable. But my friends kept prodding me, kept showing interest in my strange little experiment. And so I slowly realized it did have potential to become something communal. By 2023, I started bringing Plant Band out of the house for interactive performances at house shows. These early performances were incredibly fun. The way I set up the equipment allowed the audience members to turn knobs on the pedals, adjust effects, and directly influence the sounds that the plants were generating. This created spontaneous, collaborative soundscapes, part plant physiology and part improvisational chaos. Around the same time, I took Plant Band camping multiple times. I began experimenting with local plant life. One memorable experiment involved gathering some loose fairy cut moss from around the lakeside and having friends hold the moss while we explored the interaction between the human biofeedback and plant biofeedback, creating a living duet. We tried relaxing our bodies and our minds, and then exciting ourselves while holding the moss to see if we can create any shifts. It seemed like it did. The tones changed in ways that felt responsive. Though probably a lot of more structured experimentation would be needed to say for sure. But within our small group during that summer, it certainly felt like something meaningful was happening. I played plant music in art studios. I provided plant music for several yoga classes as well, and people consistently reported feeling more grounded, relaxed, and connected. Many shared that they would never look at their houseplants the same way again. I had no expectations at all for how people might respond. I simply stayed open to whatever Plant Band wanted to become. But people kept connecting with it, often in ways that were surprising. Plant Band was eventually asked to open for a band called Holy River. Big time, guys. This was Plant Band's first gig. um, first official gig. Very exciting. And people really loved it. We were playing in a geodesic dome, and people just started dancing and really connecting into Plant Band. So then after that, invitations began to grow. We've played forage festivals, Earth Day events, art festivals, and even the grand opening of a houseplant shop in Savannah called Cast in Gray, which is what these pictures are from on the left. What I cherish most about Plant Band is that spark of connection that it creates. At one show, an audience member brought their poinsettias, named Cynthia and Cynthia Jr., and they sat in with the band. People are usually a combination of curious, skeptical, fascinated, and puzzled. But I do find that most people walk away thinking about plants, sound, and the natural world in a new and expanded way. I've always worked with nature and animals very closely. And so for me, the line between where human ends and where nature begins has always been blurry. And I rarely feel separate from the natural world. I really don't feel separate from the natural world. I kind of feel embedded in it. Where the grass ends and my feet begin, sometimes I forget. But then I also forget not everybody has this kind of connection as either. And plant band kind of taught me that. It taught me that not everybody has that connection. Seeing people interact with plant band reignited that connection for people, though. Also, seeing people interact with plant band created space for conversations that echoed my own sensory world. At one performance, somebody said, "Grass sounds like glittery carpet." Another time, somebody said, "Aloe sounds like a droning pool." And these comments thrilled me because I see sound, and hearing other people even briefly describe something like that felt like a small miracle. And it really brought the project full circle. An experiment that began as a private sensory survival suddenly became a collective exploration of perception. So plant band findings, because this is an experiment after all. There are several findings, but these are some of my favorite. Plants produce distinct dynamic electrical signatures that translate into musical pattern. Different plants create noticeably different sonic personalities, and even the same plant can shift its patterns over time and in different environments. Plant band performances foster play, curiosity, and communal experimentation. Unexpected outcomes included. The experiment became an informal model for multi-species communication. Plant band demonstrated that technology can serve as a bridge between plant physiology and human sensory experience. The result was a shared space where humans and plants co-created sound, inviting forms of ecological empathy. Plants generated music that may have therapeutic and educational potential. Plant music seems to support grounding and parasympathetic responses in group settings. During yoga sessions, art gatherings, and immersive performance, participants consistently reported feeling calmer, more grounded, and connected. The grounding effect of plant music suggests possible applications in mindfulness practice, somatic work, neurodivergent sensory support, environmental education, and nature-based healing modalities. Extended recordings revealed rhythmic cycles that may reflect plant metabolic timing. During long sessions, when the music output sometimes develops repeating motifs or slow oscillations, which may correspond to circadian hydrated related cycles within the plant. These patterns often felt surprisingly structured. And so here are my final thoughts. The importance of autistic expression in the arts and sciences. One of the most meaningful realizations that emerged from Plant Band is how crucial autistic expression is, not only in the arts, but across sciences, technology, ecology, music, and several other fields. Autistic perception often moves along different pathways: nonlinear, sensory-rich, detail-driven, associative, attuned to patterns that others may overlook. These ways of thinking are not obstacles, they're tools for discovery. Plant band exists because of the way my autistic mind processes the world. The experiment began as a form of sensory regulation, a way to navigate burnout, and it unfolded into a project bridging biology, sound, technology, creativity, and community engagement. This is exactly the kind of innovation that emerges when we are free to explore our interests without being forced to conform to neurotypical expectations of pace, project, or structure. I think autistic creativity in this project grew from monotropic focus, multisensory processing, pattern recognition, intense curiosity, and a deep relationship with nature and systems thinking. Starting a band with your houseplants can be a lot of fun. Plant Band will continue to experiment with additional touch responses elements that are being added this spring with an equipment upgrade, and then back out to see what else we can learn and explore together. We need more spaces where we can follow these kinds of curiosities without being rushed or redirected. These explorations enrich the way we understand our world. Plant Band reminded me that my own autistic expression is not just personal, it's community. It creates conversation, bridges, experiments, and connection. And that is it. And these are some links for you to check out. I have my email address up top if you would like any of the slides or if you have any questions about Plant Band. I also have YouTube and Bandcamp, and all of Plant music is free and open to the public. Um, and then my Instagram too, if you want to follow me on Instagram, because I do a lot of other art. Plant Band is actually a small side project. I do a lot of painting and other stuff as well. So, but Plant Band is slowly getting bigger. So I'm excited to see what will happen next. And I hope y'all enjoy the presentation. I really appreciate everybody just taking the time to come and listen.
I
All
love
right.
this more than I can possibly put into words. I am just on fire with, I mean, it ticks every box, right? The synesthesia and the connection to nature and the idea that we're holographically connected to life and the potential for learning and healing and understanding the world. It is brilliant.
Thanks. I was very inspired. I was very inspired, and I think I didn't really think about how linear. I never thought about this project in a linear way until I had this opportunity. So I'm really thankful for that because I'm just doing Plant Band, I didn't really think about all the connections into autistic culture until I started writing this, and I was like, wow, it really does connect.
So I have a million questions, but one is sort of just functional because I'm going to go do this. Do you does it have to be on the leaves like a water conductive surface, or can you put it on the bark, or like how does that work?
Bark doesn't work so well. You can put it on roots. If you put it on leaves, there's different attachments. Like there's some that are a little easier on the plant so it won't bruise the leaves. Um, there's a few different, there's a sticky pad that you can stick on big leaves that kind of look like if you ever go and get your heart checked out and they stick those things on. What are those things called? I know there's a word for that, but I don't know what they are right now. But they have those too, so those don't damage the plant. Um, but the leaves really work the best. Roots do work, bark not so much.
And have you experimented with indigenous like plants in their indigenous land rather than
Yes, I
house plants?
have. I have, and I find that outdoor plants sound different than inside plants because they're more connected to more plants. So, for example, if I put the sensors on a house plant, it's just listening to this kind of small plant. But if I could connect it to ferns outside in the woods, you can hear the carpet of ferns go for like miles. And I don't know how to explain. That's a very synesthetic answer, I know. So, but you can hear the distance. You know what I mean? Like it, like that, because all the ferns are connected, and so you can hear that connection in outdoor plants.
That makes a lot of sense. Someone in the comments was asking, do you mind looking through the comments,
Yeah,
Becca?
let me see.
And somebody was talking about the application of uh, listening to organic, like crop plants, I think, as
Oh, I
opposed to
haven't done that, but that would be very interesting to do. That would be a great,
yeah.
that's a great, wondering if you could use it to compare organic versus non-organic grown crops like corn, alfalfa, etc. Um, I don't know, but that's a brilliant thing to try. That might be a plant band experiment for the future. I love moss. I love moss too. Plant dance. Okay, let's see. I thank everybody. I want to kind of read because I asked everybody in the beginning. So we have how did you feel? We have mystical. This is how people felt after they listened to Plant Band. Mystical, ethereal, peaceful, understood. Oh, I love that. And please go to this link and you can listen to a lot of Plant Band recordings. I'm gonna give just a minute or two for this screen, and then I'm gonna come back to my face. So if anybody wants this information, go ahead and get it now.
Hey, Becca,
Any
we
other
have
questions?
two hands up. If you're ready for that,
Yeah,
uh, can go and then after that.
Thank you so much for your presentation and all of your work, Becca. This is amazing. I'm definitely going to have to put Plant Band on my regular rotation because to me it felt like a form of communication. When you were talking in your speech specifically about the movement of chloroform through the grid and how that was mapping into the frequencies and being turned into music, um, my I guess my question there is, do you know if there are any like linguists or any sort of language interpretation being looked at in regards to this? Because the feeling that I was getting when I was listening was very much like I want to say like the movie Arrival almost when she's trying to map those symbols from the aliens and connecting with them through their other language. It felt to me like I was being communicated to. And I guess from a scientific basis, I feel like that would be fascinating to look into more because if we could prove somehow that that movement of chlorophyll is being done intentionally, then that's basically evidence, more evidence to show that plants are conscious, just like we are. But thank you for this. Thank you so much.
thank you. I love that question because that is my kind of question. So I don't know. There's so many plant wave experiments out there. Sometimes I can monotropically go in for hours and look at them and still not scratch the surface. So I'm sure there's some people out there doing work like that. I've not heard of it except for that documentary I mentioned, The Secret Life of Plants, that was written and it was made in 1976. So it has that 1970s, kind of new age feel to it. But there was a woman there, Miss Hashimoto, that was trying to teach her cactuses how to speak the alphabet. So definitely it's those questions are out there. I've not tried that. As far as communication, yes, I get that totally. I feel like I'm constantly in communication with nature without plant bands. I live in nature, working out and with animals all the time too. Um, so I just kind of am in tune with that. Also with plant band, you can definitely hear patterns of communicate. I feel like they're communicating their daily routine to me when I listen to them. Like I hear them wake up in the morning, I hear them get their big first kind of movement, then they lull, and then they perk up a little, lull, perk up, and then they go to sleep for the night. And they don't play it. A lot of plants don't play at night at all. Um, some do, but most of them do not.
That's really interesting. So they have a sleep cycle and everything. So that does indicate consciousness then. This reminds me.
Consciousness, or if it's their reaction to light.
It
I
could.
mean, it's hard to say. Where does consciousness begin? That's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that gets into what John talks about with the holographic universe and stuff, but all of your work really reminds me of that quote by William Shakespeare, "The earth has music for those who listen."
the Earth is a symphony, 100%. We talk about that sometimes in physics too. All right. So go next.
Yeah. Oh, I think you can hear me. But yeah, yeah, great job tonight. You mentioned you had social anxiety, so extra great job and you did a brilliant presentation. Yeah, great job and all that. Yeah, I'd mentioned the comment about, yeah, interesting to hook up differences in like one field that was grown organic and a field across town that wasn't organic, same plants, same area, and do that over and over. And then some actually organic farmers would like to use that in their marketing so they could charge more in their pricing.
I bet they would.
Like our vegetables make better music, so this is why
These are musical strawberries. I mean, imagine.
Yeah, musical strawberries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that. Now, where I live, there is a lot of farm country where I live. Where I live, the city I live in probably has more cows than people in it. So I mean, there's a lot of different also farms and stuff happening. So it might be something to look into. There is a lavender farm nearby I want to go experiment at next. So we'll see. We'll see where that leads us. I love that question. Thank you. There's a question in the comments. Let me see. It would be great to connect the mycelium. I have done that. I've done mushrooms. I actually have mushroom plants specific for them. And mushroom music is a little weird. It's exactly how you would think. It's a little.
Actually, I was hoping you could connect to the mycelium in the forest.
Yes. Like the one
where the trees communicate to each other through the root systems and through the fungi mycelium.
I have done that in camping trips. I enjoy camping a lot and being outdoors a lot. So I have done some of that in field research. I have not recorded that because the funny thing about doing that outdoors and in camping areas is there's not a lot of Wi-Fi. There's not a lot of electronics or things it's not easy to record out in the field, or at least I don't have the equipment to do that yet. Have you had outside help or resources for managing or cultivating your autistic gifts in regards to your creative work? No, this is all rebellion, 100%. Everything is everything is me. I'm going to be and do, and I want to be me, and I want to do what I'm interested in. In fact, anytime I don't do well in classroom situations. I just, I can't help it. So it's definitely been developed. I will say I have had outside help or resources in the way of family, in the way of my grandmother is also autistic and a amazing musician. I mean, just brilliant, can pick up any instrument and play it immediately. Like just so there is creativity, also a lot of fiber arts. I had an aunt that was a doll maker. I make dolls too. So it's definitely I've had those kinds of resources.
Hey, Roger, was there one other person that had their hand up? I can't see.
Got her hand up, actually. Would you like to go?
Yeah, sorry if there's noise in the background. Like the apartment next to me is like remodeling and just started making weird noise. But thank you for this. This is awesome. You said earlier you're an animal communicator, which I also find fascinating. And I'm wondering if you want to talk about like the difference between like communicating with animals versus plants, or maybe there isn't a difference, but I'm just really like fascinated by all of this. So if you want to say anything on that like communication level, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. That's a great question. And to me, there's not really a big difference between plant, animal. I don't know, or me or you. Like to me, it's all just this kind of connected thing. As far as animal communication, I find that there's different ways. I know that there's like some TV shows out now that kind of show forms of animal communication that aren't necessary. They don't really resonate with the way that I experience that. My experience is more internal. I'm not going to tell you what your dog thinks, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do to make your dog a happier dog. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking to a human to tell them I work for the animals. So, and I try to keep my work with animals where animals can be as naturally themselves as possible. So I don't focus on a lot of training and those kinds of things. I do work with behavioral issues in animals, but mostly that's to create um, a sense of well-being in their nervous system. That's what helps them, not training. So I will say there's a couple different types of animal communication. Mine is more of maybe in line with what you would think of Reiki or like an energetic transference. So with plants, it's very similar as well. Of course, animals um, communicate different, but each animal communicates different. Each species communicates a little differently. Mostly it's just tuning into how I guess I would say a frequency, a frequency that animal is. And I experience that in a very synesthetic way. So it's really hard to pull down and explain. But I guess feeling, kind of like if you have a friend that's feeling sad and you can kind of feel sad for that with that person, I would say it's like that, but like turned up the volume extremely loud because of my synesthetic perception. So, but plants, yeah, I think they like, sure, they're communicating just like animals. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
When I was working with bonobos in a language situation, we quickly found out that they had a vowel-based language that, because human beings use consonants to break apart words and know where one idea ends, begins, and another ends. So, in other words, the bonobo language based on vowels was way too complex for us to ever understand. It's just
Yeah.
intelligence on a completely different level. And I would guess that plants expand on that even more, given how they're connected so intimately to their environment. Do you have any thoughts on that, Becca?
In my synesthetic mind, if I were trying to like explain what I see, because I see so like because I have what is the opposite of aphantasia, whatever the extreme opposite of that is, I have that one. I can't remember what it's called. But when I'm with in nature in that way, I kind of like see kind of like codes. Maybe it's a mathematic process or something. Um, but yeah, it's complex. Mushrooms are very complex. When you hear a forest of ferns, it's extremely complex compared to like my one orchid in my house. So yeah, there's definitely complexities with that. Also, I hang out with deer a lot because I just love them and I go outside and that's what's in my neighborhood. And they have a language of grunts and sounds, and I can understand their language from hanging out. I know when they're doing a protective, like, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here?" Or warning, warning. There's or there's a warning for this or a warning for that, and there's a different grunt sound that they can make. So, um, yeah, animal communication is complicated. It's definitely, but to me, I just know how to do it. I don't know how to explain that to people, but my grandma knows how to do it too. Um, it's just something, both of us have synesthesia in similar ways as well.
Do you see
And
any?
of
Sorry,
course, there's the spiritual, and of course, there's the spiritual aspect of the culture I come from, which is an indigenous culture that was colonized. But before they were colonized, they did have this was a very normal thing, right? A very spiritual kind of thing as well. So there's that connection as well.
I love it that we come from the same roots, Becca.
And we both communicate with animals.
Yes, yes, we definitely are really connected to the old ways. It's so great to have a friend that understands how that works.
Yeah.
I wanted
Well,
to ask you, go ahead.
they were nomadic and followed the animals. They were a nomadic culture that followed animals. So yeah.
Right. Have you seen any different language from plants interacting with animals? Like say you're at a gig or something and there's a dog or whatever around. Do you see any blips in the matrix on that?
Um, I haven't. No, not really. I think whenever I'm performing or having it out in public, there's just so much chaos going on with everything. It's really hard to pinpoint that. That would be something. Now, I do work with animals and I've taken plant band with me. But I have not. No, I haven't really. That would be a good future experiment to think about. I'm trying to think of if any animals. I think sometimes when I have plant band playing, I've had people say that they sound like Pink Floyd before. I thought that was really funny. That happened in my last performance. They're like, this kind of like Pink Floyd, what's playing right now. So I thought that was funny.
The plants are as much rebel as you are. That's great. Roger, are you keeping an eye on anybody having their hand up? Are you?
So far, no hands up, but if you would like to say something, feel free to. This is a small enough group. You can just kind of
Oh
jump in
yeah,
if you like.
just jump in. I do have a funny story about Plant Band. I'll tell you. So one of the first house shows that Plant Band did was at night, and this was before I experimented enough to know that plants did not play well at night. So, and this was a punk show. So you're talking about like really heavy music, mosh pit, kind of dancing, uh, you know, really punked out kids, like and here I am with my daisy. I brought one daisy to play and it didn't play because it was nighttime. And I was like, oh my gosh, how mortifying for somebody with social anxiety, right? So um I finally got a spotlight and turned the spotlight on the daisy. By this time the crowd was chanting Daisy, Daisy, and then it started playing and everybody freaked out. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna die. Okay. So, and it was good. But I always thought that was it's a funny image to think about, like this whole crowd cheering for this one potted daisy. And I wonder if that daisy ever thought it was going to be like on a stage in some house show, like it's just so funny.
It'd be like waking up in like an alien abduction.
Like, or what if it's a reincarnation and they were like, oh, I'm going to be a plant so I have a relaxed life. And then it's like, oh, this human took me on the stage. Music. Okay, so I got a comment question and then we'll go to next. But the comment question says, does the music change if you touch the plants? Yes, it does, because we are full of water and we have our own biofeedback. So when we touch a plant, it becomes a duet. So you can even play just yourself by holding the contacts and listening to that, and then listening to the plant, and then combining the two. All right.
Hello. I feel like I walked into this wonderful community. I can feel your frequency. I can feel your love for nature. My brother Sean is watching. He has a house full of many plants that are his best friends. And I work in the field with autism. I have a son with autism, and we sometimes argue that using the word energy in when I communicate with people that aren't that don't use words. So I was happy to hear you use that word and that type of Reiki energy. But really, what I just wanted to say is thank you for following your passion and sharing it. It just inspired me and reminded me, and that's where our heart and soul needs to be with what makes us happy.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I do feel very strongly like I communicate. Energy was my first language. I struggled with verbal processing and still do. I still experience mutism from time to time. but I was a late talker. A late talker, but then when I finally did learn how to talk, I was a hyper talker.
Right? I understand completely, but I'm a speech therapist, but I just have to have that energy regardless if the person can talk or not talk, or if they have autism or not. And we can start with plants.
Yes, I agree. I love that idea. And welcome to the group.
We have a great number of people in our over 2,000 members now who would say that energy is their first language. And I absolutely love that it's being
Yes,
validated there.
absolutely agree. Yeah, energy and artistic expression come before language for me, for sure. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Becca. Oh my gosh, I just like my heart's full. And I can feel your joy for it, and it's really impactful in this relational, like my little brain's just going, thinking of all these amazing connections, and thank you for inspiring that. I had a friend that's actually working with identifying plants in the Amazon, and I'd wondered about the Amazon plant ban. So that's it's just all these beautiful things are coming up, and yeah, I'm so grateful that you're sharing your passion too. Thank you so much. It's just really, really heartfelt, and it's really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. I love your name, by the way. Great name. We have similar name.
I would love an Amazon. Absolutely.
I would love an Amazon plant band. Plant band needs to get some funding so we could travel to the Amazon now. That will be a future project.
You know, we have so many members worldwide. It would be such a cool project to get people, like we have 17, I think, countries that are collaborating with us now. It would be so cool to get Plant Band, like the conference.
That would be fun. Yeah, just like here, just plants. Just put a microphone in front of a philodendron. That's it.
Having a collective concert.
Right. I will say this about plant band, different plants sound different. So coffee plants are very rapid, which is very interesting. They have a very rapid tempo, which is what you would think because they're coffee. Um, Succulents just drone because they're just kind of like a puddle of water. They're just kind of like full of water and just sitting very still. So they sound like that one person that said it sounds like a droning pool. That's what those sound like. The more structure in a leaf, the more complex sound will be. Like the more little veins in the leaf, the more of that's happening, and the more leaves that are on the plant, the more complex the sound will get as well.
That's absolutely fascinating on a physics level in terms of temporality and the possibilities are endless. I wanted to ask, I was in Australia a few years ago, and I was taught how to put my ear against ghost gum tree. Have you done that?
Um, not in a way that someone's probably suggested it, but just doing it. And there's it's being out in. I feel like in being out in the bush, like in different areas in Australia, there's different feelings coming from the lands and the sounds that it brings up. Out in like in the red dirt and where it's quite hot, but it's there's a real the indigenous. There's actually the land speaks, and the older land is really like the sounds that come through it, and from the little insects as well. It's really quite strong. Yeah.
Yes.
I found it amazing. Sorry. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed Australia.
Oh, again, I don't have words. It was an amazing spiritual experience. But I listened to when you put your ear against a ghost gum, it actually sounds like when you're when you've got the faucet on full force in your bathtub, because its water system is so incredibly, I was just blown away by that. So I thought Becca might appreciate that too.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'll go find a ghost gum and have a listen. And it's because the flow with those that interacts with the whole ecosystem. So that's in relation to each other, and that's really strong imagery there.
I'll have to look up what a ghost gum tree looks like. I want to go look it up, see what it looks like. I just had a thought about animal communication. I just thought, you know how you have delay. Sometimes my processing is delayed. One thing about communicating with animals that's different than plants is plants don't have eyeballs and the physiology as animals do. Sometimes when I'm in animal communication, it's almost as if I'm feeling what the animals are feeling, if that makes sense, or I'm seeing kind of through them, like small movie clips maybe. And of course, plants wouldn't do that, but animals do that. So I just thought of that difference.
It's been kind of a long day for me, and I'm kind of winding down since it's the hour. But I want to be sure that everybody has a chance to ask or comment in the chat or through spoken language. I know some people, like Becca mentioned, we have different processing speeds, and some people like to wait till the very end to really get their thoughts together. So we always give a little time in case somebody wants to chime in. Well, I'll just say thank you, Becca. This, I would say, made my day, but kind of my eternity, really. I mean, it's so validating, and yeah, it just fills the heart. Like it's a physical experience to have engaged in this, and I can't thank you enough for what you did today and what you always do for CASY generally. You're such a great core member. And we'll just have you back again to talk about this because, again, I know you're going to do experiments, more experiments, and we're on the edge of
Yeah,
our
you never
seats.
know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So thank you. And this was the last session before the holiday break. So we'll be back on January 2nd, which I think is a really cool session on uh, how to navigate difficult conversations, if I remember right. But on Facebook, swipe on the buttons at the top. You swipe all the way to the right, and there's a little events button, and you can click that, and it will list everything coming up, and we'll continue to work on making sure that's safe and inviting for everyone. So until then, I'll sign out and thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.